Hey everyone, let's talk about AI video today a little bit. This is going to relate to videos, images, and even coding as well. So I saw this video on a Facebook group a couple days ago. So I joined this group called Google VO3, which is a great group, by the way. There's a lot of videos that people make with their prompts, which is really nice for learning how to write prompts for VO3 videos. So in this example here, this is basically a Marvel kind of characters, movies. There's Wolverine, Deadpool, and Hulk involved. So we'll take a look. You have Wolverine basically like working as a rice farmer with Deadpool. They're cutting some of the crops, and then Hulk's gonna show up, talk a little bit, and then you have Wolverine and Deadpool doing a reaction, having a conversation, right? So this is actually funny. I happen to be a Marvel fan, so I actually like noticed a lot of things with this. So all things considered, this is actually a pretty good video. Like if you're talking about a year ago or even like 6 months ago of being able to produce something like this with AI, like this is amazing. But like, if you have watched the Marvel movies, if you have watched like Deadpool and Wolverine and you actually pay attention to like the characters, like this is the amount of detail you get in the video like this. This is nowhere near close enough to be anything serious, right? And I'm talking about everything from like their costumes, the way they act, and pretty much everything. Now I know this is not supposed to be serious. It's supposed to be like a comedy. It's supposed to be funny, kind of like a commercial, kind of very casual. But the point of it is that it's actually not easy to write a prompt that's detailed enough to generate a video that is that aligns with what a director of a movie, for example, would want a scene to be like. There's just tons of details about like how an actor should act, like all the little subtle details about their costume and so on, that is really hard to just put into words and describe. Like even if you can put all of that detail into words, is it won't be 100% the way you want it just because they're words, right? And it's actually a pretty similar parallel to vibe coding, right? So you can write a pretty detailed prompt about the app you want to build. Maybe it's even a pretty simple app, right? And you ask Cursor or any of the other tools to build a whole app, like in one shot, maybe. And you're gonna get something that works. It might not be production ready, but it will work and it will run and it will do kind of what you need, right? But there's going to be tons of details about the code that you probably shouldn't be pushing to production. You're going to have like some security issues here and there, which we've seen with the T app recently. You're going to have performance issues and so on, right? So the way I use AI for coding, like I described in the video a couple weeks ago, I tend to micromanage my AI. So I basically think about the system architecture and how exactly the code should look like. And then I basically will go step by step and work on like different components and different parts of the feature step by step. And so I allow AI to kind of have its own creativity in like very specific contained components. Like when I have a front end React component, I know I need it to work a certain way. I just let it take over and code it however it wants. But the overall structure of the app, like I need to be in control. And I think with generative AI in general, that's kind of the pattern you notice, right? So with AI, like you're kind of letting it flow, like freestyle, whether it's videos or images or code, like you have to let it take creativity, right? That's just kind of the way generative AI works. So when you need to produce like real actual like production quality work, whether it's a movie, whether it's software, like you as the human need to be in control of a lot of things at a high level, medium level, and even some of the details. There are places that you can let AI take over and get creative at, but you cannot just produce a whole product with AI and expect it to be good, right? So in software, for example, when I'm working on an app, maybe in the back end, the payment flow is kind of more intricate. Like I needed to work exactly the way I needed to, which is like, the user will pay and then we'll grant them credits and then it will do this and that. It needs to lock the database in the transaction, do a commit, a rollback if it's not successful and all that, right? And then in front end, like sometimes I may need something to be pixel perfect, so I need to actually go into code and do it myself. With videos and movies, maybe if something similar, maybe there are scenes and there are places like you can let AI generate it. Kind of like in the old days, computer graphics versus like actually like shooting the footages, right? So there are definitely places you actually need to be real, right? And then there are some scenes that you can have CG take over. So nowadays you might have like AI take over some of that, right? But with like how the actors talk and how they act, all the subtle details about their body language and so on, it's really hard to control with prompts that's just text, right? It's a very human thing. And so I think this will remain true for a long time, like despite how fast AI tech is advancing, because the limit here is with like how well humans can describe what they want by words, is not with like the AI capabilities, right? I think there will come a day when AI can take over a lot of the detail work and basically like oversee the work just as well as humans do, but it will be a long time before we get there. So I always have this theory where like, the AI that's trained right now, it has all of this knowledge, but they don't have the lived experience of a human, of an adult human that has lived like 20 years, 30 years and understand the world. And there's a lot of context about the world that's not easy to put into words, right? So when you have like, for example, a long-term running robot that's been kind of living for like 20 years and has absorbed knowledge about the world like in its own persona, and I think that's kind of when AI can kind of take over some of this work that human is kind of being in control of. And that kind of comes back to my theory on how I think we should be building products with this current generation of AI tools. So the AI is going to be best for areas where like some fuzziness is acceptable. So like I just said earlier in the video, like when you're making software, like there are some fuzziness in very small contained components where that's acceptable, right? Or perhaps in like proof of concepts, for example, things that are not meant to go to production for users. Like if you're a product manager trying to build proof of concepts for something you're thinking of, you're envisioning, yeah, that totally works. And in videos, it might be like a short commercial, like you can just let AI take over and get creative and just let it flow, freestyle. That's totally fine. In a movie, most likely not. Maybe there's a very contained, like specific scene of like maybe even just a few seconds. You're showing something, and you can let AI generate that. Like that might be fine. And relating this back to Shot, so I think like the strength of AI is like the creativity. Like if you try to fight it for the details, like you're gonna have a hard time, right? So my bet on this is that, I think you kind of build it like Canva where like you have a whole bunch of templates and let the user kind of make changes based on a starting template, and that's kind of the idea with ProShot, right? So I'll generate a bunch of product images based on the product, and then the user can kind of take those and kind of iterate on it, right? So you're not like starting from the beginning, starting from scratch and writing a prompt about how exactly you want it. you kind of use AI to give you the templates to start with. And I think that's just how you have to build AI products right now with this current generation of tools, whether it's code or videos or images, because like the AI creativity is going to be there, it's going to be like not easy to control. So you just have to use that to your advantage and have your product kind of built around that. All right, that's all for today. Thanks for watching. If you like the content, please like and subscribe.